Welcome back, Spurs fans, to the Hepler football channel. Today we're doing our special segment where we're looking at whether or not Spurs can make top 5 to get European competition for next season. So we did this last week. It was our first week, and we're going to just kind of go through, see where things are shaking out since the Arsenal game, because we did the previous one prior to the Arsenal game. This is between the Arsenal game and the Aston Villa game. So we're going to see where everything's shaking out for the Spurs and the teams that we're evaluating around them, and which are Chelsea, Liverpool, Aston Villa, West Ham, and Leicester City. So those are the other teams that we're kind of looking at that are around us, that we're in competition for that top 5 positioning. And so just to remind you, we built the so I did a big analysis spreadsheet and also gathered a ton of data to kind of just predict and figure out where these teams may finish, looking at how they've done throughout the season, how they've done, and I've broken the season into quarters. The first 2 quarters are 9 games or 9 matches each, and then the last 2 quarters are 10 matches each. So pretty much everyone's gotten through the third quarter now at this point, except for Aston Villa, who has 11 matches left, where everyone else has 10 or less matches left. And so everyone's in the fourth quarter, what I call the fourth quarter, other than Aston Villa in this analysis and scenario. So what I did was take all the data that I compiled for each team over the breadth of each quarter and broke it down, taking into account, their run of form going into the upcoming games. Like the upcoming match for us is Aston Villa, and also the remaining schedule, and kind of took all that data and looked at everything, looked at the remaining schedules, and came up with what I think their final points and final positioning will be at the end of the season. There's about a point variance of about 3 points that I've got built into the statistical analysis and everything. So just because I say that Liverpool's going to have 70 points and Tottenham's going to have 72 doesn't mean there's not enough variance that may flip. So that's just something to think about. I did build in a little bit of variance into my statistical analysis and such. So with that all being said, let's kind of review where we were at following and I'm going to look up a notes because there's a lot of data to go through. So I'm not going to just look at the camera the entire time talking to you all. So at the end of my last video going into the Arsenal match, I had us in the third quarter sitting at 1.44 goals per match, 1.22 opponents' goals per match. We were collecting 1.33 points per match. And so since that Arsenal game now, we've actually, of course, lost. And so that's brought our numbers down. So goals per match, we decreased by 0.04. Opponents' goals per match increased by 0.08. The real thing that impacts us and makes it more difficult for us to get that top 5 is the points per match went down. And they went down by 0.13. So, the whole part of this whole thing in figuring out is, are we going to make top 5? Is can we close the gap between the teams that are above us? And in this last week, well, now one of those teams above us is now Liverpool, because they won their match. They leapfrogged us. They're up above us. And so with that, we're really struggling to be able to close the gap. Plus, if you look at Leicester City, they actually improved. Chelsea's improved over their previous. Everton and West Ham both struggle, but they're still already ahead of us on gathering points per match. So we're not gaining any ground there. And in Chelsea, they're still very strong in what they're doing right now and gathering points per match. So if we look at what that means for us as a season, over the season, we're collecting 1.68 goals per match. We're giving up 1.07, which, we're still got a nice little gap there, but our points per match again has dropped, and we're now in 8th place. where if you compare that to the other teams, you see their points per match. Now, Liverpool is below us, even though they've jumped us as far as points per match over the season. But they won last week. And looking at their squad, looking at the matches they have remaining, it's, that may move a little bit. Just like ours. Ours can move a little bit too. Aston Villa, this match coming up this weekend is going to be critical in whether we actually have a shot for the top 5 or not. We've been in it basically since the past 3 or 4 weeks. We've been in a must-win situation, must get 3 points every time. And we had been doing that until the Arsenal match. West Ham, while they lost their match, they're still pretty consistent in how they're playing. I would not expect them to drop back much. So, just looking at these stats and the remaining games, that's what this is all kind of speaking to me. And let me know what you all think. If you all think we have an opportunity to catch up or not. But I've gone through every team's remaining schedule, factored in how we're doing, the form the teams are in, not just for the entire season, but recently within the last 5 or 10 matches, because that does play into whether it looks like they're going to progress and continue to carry that form or not, along with the schedule. And so there's a lot of factors that go into it. And so that's what I've come up with, that we're looking where we're at right now. And so it's not looking good for us. And so what I've determined over the last 10 matches is I've given the Spurs 6 wins, 1 draw, and 3 losses. And I know last week I had the Spurs going 7-1-3 in the last 11. But the run of form, not only within the Premier League, but outside the Premier League, has made me pull that back a little bit. And so I'm thinking that there's probably another loss in there that I'm not accounting for. So I've added another loss within my calculations based on last week. And taken away a win. So what that all means as far as where I project our finishing position and in relation to the other teams is, I feel like Leicester's going to still hang on to 3rd, the way they're playing, the way the schedule lines up. Chelsea, I think they'll still hang on to 4th, same situation. West Ham, even though they took the loss, they don't really lose a lot, because part of what's remaining on their schedule looks like teams they should handle and do well against, or at least be able to draw and get some points out of. It's not just a straight loss for them. And so their loss didn't hurt them as bad as our loss did, in conjunction with the other factors, the midweek matches for us and things. There is one caveat that can kind of tweak this a little bit. Now that Tottenham doesn't have any more midweek matches, barring, a couple things here and there potentially, rescheduling or something like that, they only have to field a team once a week. So there's no reason we can't not only rest the players, but put out the strongest lineup every match. And that's why I've while I did draw back on what I thought we'd do over the last 10, 11 matches, give us another loss, take away a win, the ability for us to rest players and be as strong as possible going into every match, I think gives us an opportunity to still come out with a strong team and get some results. Of course, a lot of that's going to be factored in after this week. How do we do this week? How do we bounce back from a terrible week? One of the worst weeks in definitely recent memory. And but then I'm saying that now, where I thought we were right behind West Ham last week in 6, because I had a lot of optimism going into the Arsenal game that we could win. I knew it would be tough. I was very on the fence about whether it was a draw or a win. In my analysis, I actually had it as a loss, because I needed to put a loss somewhere, and that one made sense, being a derby and everything. But the way we lost against Arsenal and Zagreb has really kind of made me rethink the ability for us to push forward. But so what's happened in between last week and this week? We've gone from 1 point behind West Ham in 6th, where I had us finishing in 6th, to now we're going to finish 8th, 2 points behind Liverpool and Everton. And that's kind of where I don't see Aston Villa really finishing strong. They've got a lot going on their schedule. They've got a lot of matches to make up because of their issues with having to not play because of COVID and things early in the season. So they've got a lot going on. And Jack is questionable to come back against Tottenham. So that, do they even have their best player available for the, all these matches that are coming up for them? He's probably going to be back next week if at the latest, but you never know. There could be in some instance where he gets hurt or not. But this is how I think that we're going to finish up as of now, after the Arsenal game, prior to the Aston Villa game. Again, like I said, I'm going to do this each week, kind of see where we're at, unless it just gets so out of hand that it's not possible. I mean, if you look at our last 10 matches, we've won 4 out of our last 10 in the Premier League. Not great. Not good at all. I mean, it's just bad. That's as simple as you can put it. So the Aston Villa match, and then I believe it's Newcastle after that, is going to give us an indicator of, okay, what can we do when we all have to play 1 match a week? So over the next 2 or 3 weeks, there's going to be an opportunity for us to kind of really get a gauge on what is Tottenham going to be for the last 7, 8, 9 matches of this season. And of course, I kind of taken Aston Villa out of that one because we had a midweek match. But so there is a slim opportunity, but our margins are continuing to shrink and shrink and shrink, and our margin for error is almost down to nothing for us to have a chance to get into that top 5. And that's just my thoughts. It's my statistics and data that I've pulled all together. Let me know what you all think. It's looking bleak, but we can always be hopeful. That's why I was kind of alluding to on the slightly brighter side is that 1 match a week. There's no reason we can't put our strongest team out there. And by the time we come back from the international break, we should have Son back healthy and have every available avenue to us to be as successful as is possible on the pitch for the rest of this season and see what really can happen. And but with that being said, let me know what you all think. If you haven't done it, subscribe. Please support the channel. Trying to build a nice big community here where we can all engage and interact and have thoughtful debate and be respectful of each other. But hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, make your comments down below. Let me know what you all think. And come on, Big Blue, let's go get this.